Hey, and welcome to another Tech Tuesday. This is Chad from Ascension Worship. This week we've got a really exciting topic. This week we're talking about labeling your microphones. Ooh, that is exciting.
Hey, what do you say? Yes, it's that time again. It's Tech Tuesday.
So it's not a very sexy topic, but this week we're talking about labeling your microphones, in particular your wireless mics. The reason why I bring this up is because a lot of churches have me come in and help to organize and streamline things, especially when it comes to how their front of house mixer is set up. And one thing that is really common, especially with churches that maybe started off portable and have recently grown, gotten into their own building, they've got more stuff than they used to have, is there are some pretty inefficient ways that churches will label their microphones. So today I want to talk about a couple of no-nos and then how I would suggest you do it, and then I'll give you an example of a scene that I have with a local church that I work with from time to time. No-no number one. So, no-no number one, colors. Colors seem like a great idea when you're first starting out. Maybe you've got a smaller team, a physically smaller room, a smaller number of microphones. So having, a red and a green microphone kind of makes sense. But as you grow, it becomes more difficult to manage. So one, as you add more microphones, there is a limited number of colors available. If you're using those really ugly windscreens, they work really well, but they're very ugly. You can see those from across the room, which is great, but there's only like 5 colors of that you can get. If your pastor doesn't like the ugly windscreen, which is understandable, then you might do electrical tape. But electrical tape, there's only like 5 colors in a multi-pack. You can buy more colors online, but then that seems wasteful to buy, a whole roll of electrical tape to wrap one microphone. Again, if you start running out of colors, you might be doing multiple colors on a mic. So there might be a red mic, there might be a white mic, and then there's a red-white mic. This again is very difficult to see from across the room. And if someone hops up on stage, you may not be able to tell what microphone they're grabbing. If you're labeling it on your board, there's not a lot of room to write out, yellow, white mic. It takes up a lot of space. It seems dumb, but it's important. And the biggest thing for me is that there's no set way that when people walk on stage that their microphones are laid out physically for you to see from across the room. So if you have a lot of microphones and someone walks up and grabs a mic, to figure out which microphone that is might be impossible, so you have to throw all the mics up at the same time, hope that they talk loud enough for you to quickly find the right one and pull out the rest. This can become a bit of a feedback nightmare. It's not attractive. If you're doing video stuff, people on video don't want to see all that nasty electrical tape that's starting to come off. It's not a great way to go. No-no number 2. No-no number 2, names. Who's that walking on stage? Oh, that's Bob. I don't have a Bob mic. Oh, he's on Susan's mic. Okay, cool. Who is Susan? Oh, Susan left the church like 3 years ago. Gotcha. Cool. So you can see that this gets messy really quickly, especially if your team starts to grow. Maybe when you first started off, there was one worship leader and someone playing a cajon, and it was really easy to throw names on there because those were the 2 guys on stage. Well, now we are hopefully growing in our volunteers, growing in our worship team. So it's going to get confusing if you've got those same names for multiple people that are coming on each week. Or if someone has left, or maybe someone has multiple channels on the board. So there's a Bob mic. Is there a Bob acoustic, a Bob keyboard? Again, small thing, but it starts to take up a lot of space on your console when you're trying to write out, obviously name longer than Bob, but Bob keyboard can take up a lot of space. So I'm not a big fan of names, maybe for your senior pastor, but that's usually where I draw the line. So what would I suggest you do instead? So instead, I would have you do positions, meaning like, roles on stage, and numbers. So I talked about with colors how it's not great because you've got people all over the stage, and there's maybe no set way of, okay, orange is going to be next to green, which is going to be next to blue. No, it's just completely random. So with numbers, pretty much everything's going to have a number. It's going to be from the house left position to the house right position. So if I am running sound and someone walks up on stage and they grab the third microphone from my left, okay, cool. I know that's Vox 3. I can throw that up and then pull everything else back. And I'm not having to figure out, is that the red white mic or the red white mic? I can't tell from here. Oh, I'll just throw them all up, so it's going to be a lot easier to work with. When it comes to positions or roles, again, we're breaking things down into, if you have a really big team, worship leader mic or mics. So maybe you have a worship leader and a co-worship leader. So they'd be worship leader 1, worship leader 2. Again, worship leader 1 would be on my left. Worship leader 2 would be on my right. And then you got all the rest of the backing vocals. Some churches don't like the phrase backing vocal because, oh no, backing makes it sound like I'm less than, it's like, well, no, backing vocal is a very important part. You're the glue between the worship leader and the crowd, but that's fine. So instead we'll call them Vox. So we got worship leader 1, worship leader 2, Vox 1 through whatever. And again, from house left to house right. And then we're going to have our MC microphones. So those are the people that come up to do announcements or, read a passage, that kind of thing. And then finally, we're going to have our headset microphones for our pastor. So I've got an example on here. Let's take a look, and I will show you how I have this laid out. So this is a slight variation of what we were just talking about. This particular church has 9 wireless microphones. There are 7 handhelds and 2 headset mics. And these are set up because there's usually only one worship leader. And when I say worship leader, I mean the person who's leading the worship service, not necessarily every single song. So there's one worship leader who's generally dead center. And then we've got up to 7 different handheld microphones that are, again, from my left to my right. One of those is kind of a flex mic. It's usually used as an MC mic, but it can be used as a vocal microphone if need be, if there's a bigger service. So if you look on here, I've got them again labeled from 1 to 7. 1 worship leader, so that's the guy in the center. And then this is very important. That microphone has its own DCA controlling it. So at any time I could be working with my left hand on the balance of the electric guitars. The worship leader starts to speak to the crowd. I've got a fader here that I can immediately turn him or her up or down, without having to change what I'm doing with my left hand. So also too, there are reverb and delay sends on all these microphones, but there's only delay set up on the worship leader mic as of right now, because I don't want to muddy up my mix with 6 or 7 different people coming through delay. I'd rather just have the person who's leading. And so if Vox 2 is leading, I can add them into the delay, so on and so forth. But as of right now, as a bass scene, there's only delay on my worship leader mic. So 1 worship leader. Then we've got 2 through 6 are our Vox microphones. Again, these are usually backing vocals, or they may be leading the odd song here or there, but they're not necessarily leading the service. All these microphones are grouped with this DCA over here, the BV DCA. So I don't like to have all my vocals full blast all the time. I want whoever's leading to be up front, and I want the rest of my backing vocals just underneath. And then when there's a big spot where maybe the worship leader pulls back, and again, the BVs are kind of the glue between the worship leader and the crowd. So that would be a time where I'd probably boost up my DCA to get more of that choir effect with those particular microphones. And then when they're done, I duck them back down to either 0 or below, however I want to do it. And again, there's reverb on those, but no delay as a default. The 7th microphone right here is currently set up to be an announcement microphone, an MC, Master of Ceremonies microphone. So the EQ, the gain, the compression, everything is set up for spoken word, not for singing. This is not currently affected by any DCAs. If I were to use it as a singing microphone, then I would probably put it in the backing vocal DCA, or I would double patch it. But currently it is just a speaking microphone that is not affected by any DCAs. Finally, we've got two headset mics here. They do have some labels on them. Headset 1, baptism. If there's a baptism going on, that is what they're going to use for that. Any guest speakers will be coming through that. The headset 2 microphone, and I would have this be 1, but this is the way this church was already set up, so I didn't change it. That is for Spike. That is their lead pastor of the church. So again, I will use names on occasion, but I still have the label headset 2, which is also what it says on his pack. That microphone is specifically fitted to his head. This EQ is set to his voice, and there is a headset DCA over here. And again, I want to be able to, if he comes up during a transition, I want to be able to have control over my band with my left hand, and be able to always have a fader for his volume with my right hand. So that's what the DCA is doing. So the great thing about doing this is that I've got a lot of consistency. Rather than the worship leader being on a brown mic one week and then the black mic the next and then the red mic the third week, and I'm constantly changing how my delays are set up and that kind of thing. No, it's set, it's labeled on the microphone, it's labeled on the board, it's labeled on the monitor console. One worship leader is the microphone that we use for the worship leader. And then 2 through 6, it doesn't really matter. If you want to have the same person on the same microphone, that's fine. But make sure that when they're on stage, they are physically from your left to your right, because it just makes things a lot easier. All your effect settings will be right. If you're panning, all that will be right. It just makes things so much easier than just a plethora of colors that are just, just a hot mess, honestly. So try this out. Let me know how it goes for you. If you have something else that you like to do and you'd like to leave a comment below, please feel free to do so. This is a community kind of thing, so I want to make sure that everybody has a voice on that. And please don't forget to like, subscribe, and to share. This is a completely free resource right now. I want to keep it that way. It helps us if you share this with other people. There's 60 plus free videos on here. So people in your church, other church tech guys that you know, please feel free to share this with them and get the word out there. Until next time, have a great week. Again, this is Chad from Ascension Worship. I hope this has been helpful for you and your team. Come back here every Tuesday for new information.